What is good, defenders, and welcome to another episode. This one, episode 236 of the most LAFC podcast in CONCACAF Champions League. That's right. This is Defenders of the Bank because it will always be the bank. You know my voice. I am the Scarf, J.R. Liebert, coming live from right in front of the Scarf Wall in beautiful Lawndale, California, and right next to me on StreamYard. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching it on YouTube. YouTube.com/Defenders of the Bank is the man, the myth, the green jacket clad flamingo himself, one Christian Philemon.
Wednesday night games. This is like deja vu all over again. To quote the great Yogi Berra, it's almost midnight Thursday. How is it that we've got two straight pods where we're doing it at this time? Yikes, Scarf. Another sleepless night, but that is okay because as per usual, we're here to educate, inform, and entertain the millions of Defenders of the Bank listeners. And you are right. I am clad in green. And by the looks of the lighting, my hair is almost the same hue that my jacket is. Not because I did it this way. This is literally what a purple hairdo turns into after multiple washes, a month's worth of multiple washes. But it goes with the aesthetic quite well. And considering the fact that our first game was a blackout, our second game was against a pesky Pacific Northwest team that wore green, I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to wear a very fun color. And I like my green sweatpants. I like my green jacket. I like my green jersey. I like more green in my pocket. But if I go out and continue to buy green material, I won't have any more green in my pocket.
What was the accent you were going with there, too? Was that
I don't know. There was nothing behind it. It's just
I like it.
It came out of nowhere.
I have a bunch of scarves behind me. Only there's very little green right over there. There's a little bit of green, but that's about it. I have the new green scarf that goes with the new green kit, but not up here on the scarf wall. I'm keeping up the Alajuelense scarf right above here for the remainder of this episode, and then down it goes after. But I want to thank the young gentleman who traded me in Costa Rica. We are going to talk about our experience, or my experience in Costa Rica. It was absolutely incredible, you guys. We have not talked about the first match against Alajuelense, so we will talk about both matches today. We do want to thank our good friends over at Flex Power Tools, flexpowertools.com, the official sponsor of the Defenders of the Bank podcast. A big thank you to our friends at Flex. And again, we are looking forward to working closely with them here in the 2023 season as we break down each and every one of our matches, not just in the MLS regular season, not just in preseason, not just in the US Open Cup, not just in the CONCACAF Champions League, not just in the Leagues Cup, not just in MLS Cup playoffs, but every single damn thing that we do, we are sponsored by Flex. So we want to say
keep talking. I'll be right back.
Oh God, I don't know where Philly's going, but I'm going to keep talking. You guys, again, want to give a very quick update on Ryan Hollingshead. We were all a little afraid as Ryan Hollingshead came off the pitch last match. Philly is carrying a Flex box for those of you watching on YouTube. I know what's in the box. I'll let Philly tell you why he is carrying a Flex box in just a minute. But we do want to say a big sigh. We're breathing a big sigh of relief, I should say, on Ryan Hollingshead. Apparently, allegedly, he is day-to-day with a chest injury. Look, I think it's a little cryptic. I think we saw him either saying or pointing to his lungs and heart area. That's always kind of scary. It was a really bad undercut there by Emmanuel Boateng. And Philly, you and I got to hear Steve Cherundolo kind of sound off in the press conference about how he thought the league really needs to look at plays like that as where when both guys don't go up to challenge, then there could really be someone getting hurt on those type of plays. See Cheeky Palacios last year with his concussion that kept him out for a little bit. But Philly, it looks like we're maybe dodging a bullet, or we're at least out of the woods for most of this season with Ryan Hollingshead being okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very reassuring when you hear what you hear in the press conferences and what Steve alluded to. We didn't get a media guide this time around like we normally do because this game was CONCACAF, and, well, we didn't have ourselves registered media-wise with CONCACAF, although I did take the liberty of trying to register before you and I recorded to see if I could get any of the materials from the press conference to upload on our page. And when I did a search in organization, you would appreciate this, at CONCACAF, believe it or not, Defenders of the Banc LAFC podcast popped up.
Woo!
So we were there. I was quite surprised because I was looking for other or independent, and I just figured, let me do a search for the hell of it. Let me check Defenders. It was there, but I don't know what they mean by upload your organization's credential. We don't have our own. I mean, maybe we make our own lanyard. But anyway, that's suffice to say. We didn't get the point of what I'm trying to say is long story long is we didn't have anything to say that he was out, hurt, anything. It was all a matter of speculation. But you're coughing up some blood, if that's what I'm not mistaken, is what we were told.
Yep.
That sucks. And we wish him the best. His presence was surely missed. He absolutely wrecked the back line of Alajuelense down in Costa Rica. He was very much missed today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I don't think we're going to see him against Seattle in 3 days. I think that's pretty much a certainty. We may not even see him against his old mates when we are back at BMO Stadium on March 25th. More on that game as we recap our schedule at the end of the match. But either way, looks like Ryan Holling said, at least maybe a dodge the worst case scenario in all of that. Just want to mention that the Mauricio Mo Facio Futsal Court in Southeast LA fundraising effort is underway. Again, people, we got to get this court funded and built. LAFC, the Mo Facio Futsal Court Foundation, and the 3252 are partnering, of course, to build that futsal court in Southeast LA in Mo's honor. And if you go to lafc.com/Mo-Facio, you get all the details on how you can donate. Please, please, please donate. We are keeping track of how much Philly and I are going to owe at the end of the year with $5 in the jar every single time we call BMO Stadium Banc of California Stadium. You would think if we're trying to raise money for Mo, we wouldn't want to get the name of the stadium wrong, BMO. But you know, we're working on it still. We are, as 236 episodes will show you, we are a work in progress. So we're having a lot of fun though this year, happily donating $5.
Work in progress, huh?
Every single time. You know,
speak for yourself, man.
Hey, listen, we need all the help we can get. Look, this day in LAFC history is something we like to do on each and every one of our episodes. And this one's a quick one, but it's actually got some ties a little bit into what we did today and who we played. Want to let you guys all know we are recording this. It is 3 minutes before midnight. So it is still technically Wednesday, March 15th. And that's good because that's the date that I have prepared for us to highlight. Want to say a happy birthday to one of our supporters Shield winning teammates from 2019. That would be none other than the Jamaican sensation himself, Peter Lee Vassell. Happy birthday, Peter Lee Vassell. 2019 super draft pick, 40th overall in that draft in 2019. Philly, he only played 6 matches for us. And looking back on his tenure, it was not a long or storied tenure. In fact, no goals, no assists, only about 170 minutes total. But Philly, in 5 of the 6 matches that Peter Lee Vassell played for LAFC, we won. We won 5 of those 6 matches that he appeared in. But I think it's safe to say, Philly, that you and I are always going to remember Peter Lee Vassell as part of the starting lineup for that ill-fated game at BC Place in 2019 against Vancouver and Marc Dos Santos on the sideline. Not, by the way, just Marc Dos Santos on the sideline, Philly. How about Daniil Henry on the back line? And who was the keeper for Vancouver that day? None other than Maxime Crepeau.
Oh, yeah, dummy.
How crazy is that? I mean, look, that's the day where we started 3 umlauts, Nico Hamalainen and Shaft Brewer Jr. on the back line.
That's also the last time we saw Shaft Brewer Jr.
That's like the last time we saw a lot of those guys out there. My goodness. Man, looking back on that lineup too, it was like Daniil Henry, and it was Name That Perez with both Josh Perez and Adrian Perez in the lineup. I mean, those were the good old days, Philly, when we played games like Name That Perez. I remember those great days. Maxime Crepeau, though, beating us 1-0. So happy birthday to Peter Lee Vassell.
What a trap game that was.
And Philly also on that
Representing
very
Hartford Athletic, by the way,
not
in the
not any,
USL.
actually not anymore. He is currently fun employed, looking for a team. I looked that up right before. I was hoping he would still be on Hartford Athletic, but no longer, no longer with Hartford Athletic. Man, remember
It still says
Philly?
plays as a midfielder, but then again, you can't always trust Wikipedia.
I mean, maybe I went on Transfer Market. It said he is currently without a club, but I look, we try and find a lot of different sources out here. Philly, remember when he started out, he scored like 5 or 6 goals for Jamaica, something like that. At least in his first 9 matches, he had like 6 goals or something like that. And now the guy can't even find a club to play in the USL. What? It's so weird, man, how the North American pro system works.
Reminds me of another player who's currently down at Club America that was really good at scoring for his national team, but yet had such a struggle finding the back of the net here in Major League Soccer. Let's see how he continues to fare in Liga MX. I'm talking about, obviously, your muse for the song, Brian. Oh, Brian. Now, Scarf,
Yeah.
you're wishing birthdays and whatnot. I do want to give 2 birthday shout-outs.
All right, 2 birthday shout-outs, and then I have one more tie-in for this day in LAFC history, but go on.
Oh, you know what? No, you finish your tie-in, then I'll give the shout-outs right before we get into the meat and potatoes of this pod.
All right, this is it. Also on that same day, Philly, March 15th. But this one happening in, I believe it was 2018, but I think I cut off the date on mine. Marco Urena called into the Costa Rican national team for friendlies against Scotland and Tunisia. Of course, we played a Costa Rican team today in Alajuelense. Marco Urena was at the meetups the night before the game in Costa Rica. He came down to meet all the LAFC fans and supporters. Marco Urena in the building down there in Costa Rica. And that, Philly, is this day in LAFC history. You wanted to give a couple of birthday shout-outs.
I do. Want to give a birthday shout out to a longtime listener and supporter of this podcast. He always posts and tags us for a story. Ruben, you wanted a birthday shout out. And I saw the message. I was not only going to give you a birthday shout out along with Scarf on Instagram, I made sure to put it on the top of my notes to give you a birthday shout out on this pod. Ruben, you know who you are. Nothing but love and appreciate all the support. I hope you had an awesome birthday, my friend. So happy birthday to you. And also a very big happy birthday shout out to our friend Angel, a.k.a. Soccerhead. Hope you had an awesome day as well. Always love seeing you. Always love the positivity. Always love what you do and bring within our community. So nothing but love to you, Soccerhead. And again, much love to you, Ruben, for being a longtime listener and supporter of this podcast. Nothing but love, bro, man.
Long-time listener for sure. And Angel, we love you, buddy. So Ruben and Angel, happy birthday, guys. Philly, we got a couple of news and notes to get into. Let me get the short ones out of the way, and then I'm gonna turn this over to Philly for quite a bit, actually, because I know Philly is very, very excited to talk about the main piece of news and notes that we have to talk about. How about MLS Team of the Week action for week number 3? Both Denny Bwanga and Timothy Tillman named as starters for the Team of the Week. And, of course, the very prestigious FIFA Team of the Week 20. FIFA Team of the Week, that, of course, featured Denny Bwanga. So if you do play FIFA, get out there and try and achieve that Team of the Week card for one Denny Bwanga, as he has an 85 overall rating, which is pretty incredible there for Denny. So get on FIFA, everybody. Philly, which big news would you like to tackle first? We've got a certain relationship with a European club that I know you're excited about, or we've got, I don't know how many trips we're going to be taking down to Fullerton sometime soon. What do you think?
Well, the one that would probably be the shortest duration would be the trip to Fullerton, that's upcoming. So let's tackle that one first before we get into the red and gold.
All right, very excited, you guys. We have been eagerly anticipating the launch of LAFC 2, and they finally have released their schedule. And look, we were very excited to see that it is not too far off. In fact, now that it is 12:03 in the morning on March 16th, Philly, just 10 days away from some very big history happening for this club.
Absolutely, my man. I mean, March 26th at 7 p.m. at Titan Stadium in Cal State Fullerton, LAFC 2 is going to take on North Texas, Dallas, SC in what's going to be the inaugural match for our MLS Next Pro team. We hope to be very much involved with it in whatever capacity that we have. So we'll be doing a bunch of things with LAFC too, just not entirely sure what. But yeah, as far as tickets are concerned, we don't have an exact pricing for it, but it's not going to be free, unfortunately. But it's not going to be that expensive either. I know there's a lot of people within the LAFC community that live not too far from around there. Be awesome to see you out there at Titan Stadium supporting the black and gold for the MLS Next Pro side. You never know when you're going to spot the next awesome player that LAFC is going to have. So check it out. Titan Stadium, March the 26th. It happens to also be the home opener for Angel City FC. So there's a little conflict of schedule there, but who knows? We may spread ourselves out to Titan Stadium, and we got the girls, Panda and Nina, representing Angel City Chicks for the NWSL. That's what happens. We're becoming a local and global behemoth, Scarf. So that's the story there with that. We don't have a full roster yet. We don't know the story there, but stay tuned. We do have news, and anytime we have news, you will be the first to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to mention something, you guys. MLS Next Pro. Look, I had the pleasure of going up to watch our U19s play a couple of years ago. Actually, last year, now that I think of it, geez, it was last year. Early last year, I had the pleasure of going up and watching our U19s play up in Bakersfield when they were playing in the finals to move on, possibly to make the U.S. Open Cup. And I was there with about 25 to 30 black and gold supporters watching the academy team. And I was also there with about 25 to 30 family members of everybody who was on the team. And there was a kid last year that scored 2 absolute bangers in this final, this regional final in the NPSL tournament, so that these guys would go on basically in the Final Four to make the U.S. Open Cup. They unfortunately lost their next match, so they didn't make the U.S. Open Cup that day. But I remember turning to this guy, and I said, dude, that kid that just scored these 2 bangers, he is going to be something special. I've been watching him on the internet. I've been reading a lot of stuff about him on Twitter. I mean, this kid, Nathan Ordaz, who just scored these 2 goals, absolute bangers. And he looks at me and he goes, well, that's pretty nice, man, because that's my son you're talking about right now. Had no idea it was his dad. Ran into him in the parking lot today after the game, and we kind of reminisced about that moment. Turns out Nathan Ordaz has been in the 18 several times already this season for LAFC, not LAFC 2, but LAFC. So if you guys want to get out there and get on the forefront of seeing the next wave of players in the black and gold, players like Christian Torres, Eric Duenas, Tony Leone, Nathan Ordaz, who would have certainly played for the MLS Next Pro team had they come up at the same time as this team had existed. It's going to be a lot of fun. Cal State Fullerton, the backyard for so many of you listening to this podcast, dare I say many of the millions.
And millions.
So make sure you get out to watch LAFC 2 starting March 26th. I do want to mention very quickly the 3 matches against Los Gros, Galaxy 2, June 15th and September 9th at the Dignity Health Sports Park Track and Field Complex. I'm not kidding. They're playing in the track and field complex, not in the big stadium. And August 12th at Cal State Fullerton. Those are the 3 games that I'll have circled on my calendar more than any other. Philly, 28 matches in 27 weeks, 14 home and away.
Certainly looking forward to that, and definitely want to support those boys as they continue on with their professional career development. It's going to be really cool, and looking forward to seeing you all out there at Titan Stadium, March 26th, 7 p.m. Put it on your calendar. You know, Scarf, it's kind of amazing the things you could be reminded when you're drinking a box of Cabernet Sauvignon. One thing I happened to grab one of these black boxes just out of sheer curiosity, and I was a sucker for the fine print. It said, "Oh, gold medals in whatever." I felt like buying this because it was.
So the box is black and gold.
Yeah. But my point is, like, this Cabernet Sauvignon, and I know somewhere along the lines, Jonathan Reimer is having a conniption, knowing that I'm drinking wine out of a what appears to be a muscle milk box, but it's from Chile. And you know who else is Chilean? Our good buddy Rod Diaz, who also happened to celebrate a birthday. So I wanted to give a big shout out to our buddy Ra. Can't wait to have you back at the bank. Rod Diaz, currently the touring bassist for the band Korn. Really cool stuff. Anyway, let's get into exciting news that LAFC just announced a couple of short days ago. Now, I've been waiting for some kind of a German partnership, some kind of a German anything. I know bringing in Timothy Tillmans, is exciting. I know we had a trialist that had German ties, but none of it was as big as this announcement. Real quick, the reason why I'm even bringing this up right now is because I have German roots within my family. And a lot of these German roots actually point to the direction of the team that is part of the partnership that I'm going to talk about. My family, they originally come from this little country in Eastern Europe called Romania. My mother's side immigrated to New York, which is where yours truly was born. First of my family born in the United States, by the way. My father's side, they all immigrated from Romania to Munich. That's right, Munich, Germany. I spent my entire life traveling back and forth from New York to Munich. Obviously,
there's a long commute.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can't take the F train from Queens to Bavaria. It's kind of annoying. Maybe one of these days. But obviously, there's a very big club down in Munich called Bayern Munich, which, well, suffice to say, my entire family was a big fan of. I think my uncle Franz Schecks was definitely he was a member. I don't know if he still is. I haven't spoken to him in a little while. Big Bayern fan, as was my cousin Adrian. Adrian, unfortunately, well, before I get into that, Adrian would always send me stuff from Bayern, scarves, jerseys. I had so many articles of clothing from Bayern. And by the way, I lived in Frankfurt, so, somewhat of a conflict there, but still I had a lot of family down there. But for me in particular, my cousin Adrian, a massive Bayern Munich fan. That's all we would talk about for hours. He tragically lost his life Christmas Eve in 2016. I still have a scarf that he last sent me. In fact, I brought it out to the game where Bayern played Arsenal down at Dignity Health Sports Park back in 2019. So Bayern obviously is very big within my family. And scarf, very interesting. I did tell you this. In my family tree, I only found this out a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And I don't know what that makes me in terms of relation, but my great-grandfather's second cousin actually was a starter for the German national team in 1954, the first German team to win the World Cup. Joseph Posipal was his name, moved from a little city called Lugoj in Romania, happened to be in Germany, made that team. And lo and behold, I think still to this day, the only Romanian-born player to ever win a World Cup. So got some interesting ties to all of this. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick background on this part. Now, LAFC announced the red and gold partnership with the Bavarian Giants. This is massive. This isn't one of those things where it's like, yeah, cool, we'll partner up. You give us some guys, we'll give you your guys. No. They literally both put money down, and they both have 50% equity stake in this red and gold partnership that's going to look to develop and train players. I know there are a lot of people out there who don't like Bayern, and there are a lot of people that do. But obviously, when you tie yourself to such a big global behemoth, that is only going to do wonders for your brand as well. Now, we're working on getting a certain person from the LAFC front office to come on Defenders of the Bank to really get down to the nitty-gritty about this. But going forward, we have this partnership in place with Bayern Munich, and it's going to be epic. This is going to be, I guess, like one of the first soccer development cooperations where two teams have a lot of equity into it. It's not like I said, handshake deals. It's legit partnership, and we obviously sought each other out in a lot of ways. And the fun parallel, Scarf, yeah. I've been talking an awful long time, and I know I want to get you back on here, but
that's okay.
Bayern Munich, when the Bundesliga was formed in 1963, they weren't a part of the Bundesliga because the Deutsche Fußball Federation was like, there's already a team out of Munich that's more successful than you are. They're 1860. You stay down in the lower division. Well, that obviously is going to create a chip on someone's shoulder. They came out, they brought in a couple of good players by the name of Franz Beckenbauer, Sepp Myers, and the bummer, Gerd Müller, and then the rest is history. Sort of reminds me of another team that people considered the second team in Los Angeles that has started to turn things around and started to win trophies. So while we are by no means on the same level as Bayern Munich, I still see some parallels in it, and I'm very excited about this partnership. And now I'm going to take a sip of my Dr. Pepper and let you talk.
No, look, this is why I turned it over to you on this one. You guys, Philly is between the two of us, obviously, our resident Bundesliga expert as well. He's got, I mean, look, you've got ties to Bayern in your family. You've obviously got love for Eintracht Frankfurt as well. We've talked about this on the podcast. We know that many people out there in LAFC supporters land also feel very strongly about a possible tie for Borussia Dortmund, because you know what? That was one of the clubs that we really modeled ourselves after early on in terms of supporter culture. Obviously, many of our original founding members of the 3252 went down to go see the stadium over at Borussia Dortmund. Look, I am a huge Union Berlin fan. I became one because of ESPN showing how they got promoted the first time they came up in, was it the 2018-19 season, I believe it was. So this just, again, what I love about our club more than anything else, Philly, is how it has expanded my knowledge and my desire to understand and really see the game for the global aspect that it is. Look, where everything from Vissel Kobe in Japan to obviously Peñarol to now our huge tie with Bayern Munich. Look, this is something that I would have wanted to make sure, just saying, I would have really wanted to have made sure, Philly, that if I was around since, I don't know, maybe 96, I might want to make sure that I capitalized on being one of the teams that were first out of the gate at the forefront of everything that Major League Soccer could offer and really lock up these types of partnerships so that a team that came along, I don't know, maybe 22 years after, that also happened to play in the same city. I'm just saying, one of the things that I teach my kids in Latin all the time, Philly, is that you got to learn from the past. Dare you might be doomed to repeat some of the same mistakes. Well, you just went over the history between how Bayern was not even allowed in the Bundesliga because a team that might have been there before they were was already there. And Bayern said, you know what? I got your tradition. I got your tradition right here. And they turned everything on its head. I couldn't think of a smarter move for Bayern Munich to make than to partner with the black and gold, a team that is obviously patterned after their same trailblazing spirit. I am so incredibly excited for this partnership. Look, Bayern, you and I were talking about this, Philly, what, 2 or 3 years ago? They won 6 trophies in one season. Yes, that's the Robert Lewandowski led, the Alphonso Davies led, the ridiculously talented Bayern Munich. And everybody said, and I remember you telling me this, Philly, that season, oh, you know, teams don't give a lot of credit or respect to teams from the Bundesliga. You know, they think they just play a certain way. And the Barcelonas, the Manchester Uniteds, the Real Madrids, they feel like they're superior. Well, that team won 6. That's a sextuple. Not a treble, not a quad, but a sextuple in one season. I don't know whether that's been done before. I don't know. It
has. Barcelona's done it.
Okay. So see, this is why I have Philly, because he's our resident expert on things like this. But okay, so you're telling me the 2 teams that have done it are Barcelona and Bayern? All right, I'm in.
It's a no-brainer. And I mean, look, it's exciting. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to hear the term Mia San Mia around a lot in these upcoming weeks. That is a Bavarian term for Wir sind wir. Wir sind wir is a German term for we are who we are. So that's basically like a way of saying we don't care whether you like us. We don't care whether you hate us. We are who we are. And that's the bottom line. And so, I mean, I would say I agree with that statement. We are who we are. And I'm taking that from the perspective of being an LAFC supporter. We are who we are. People are going to hate us. We're already catching hate because people think, well, we've screwed around with the monopoly money and the TAM and the GAM and the thank you ma'ams and the wham bams and all that stuff. But so what? By the way, we haven't screwed around with anything. We played within the rules. But hate us because you ain't us. And we're going to continue to grow. This builds more brand awareness. So those knucklehead supporters from down the 110 could go, no one's ever heard of LAFC anymore. Guess what? If they hadn't heard about us before, They certainly have heard of us now. So sorry. We are who we are, Wir sind wir, and we're about to break more hearts and set more trends globally, baby.
Yeah, you know, one of the things we definitely did, Philly, was break some hearts down in Costa Rica. I do want to, we should probably get into the two matches, right? That we're going to talk about against Alajuelense. Look, we didn't cover the first match because, first of all, the last couple of days, we've only had 48 hours in between podcasts, one more sleeps, games, everything else that's been going on. It has been a hectic string where we are playing 5 matches in 15 days, ending with the match up in Seattle on the 18th. But 2 of those 5 matches, Philly, came against Alajuelense, the first of which down in Costa Rica on the 9th. And let me tell you, it was absolutely amazing. On the 9th? On the 12th? 9th? 12th? Oh, God. Now I've got my days all wrong. Anyways, we spent some time down in Costa Rica. I know, unfortunately, Philly, you could not make it down in Costa Rica. You were calling some matches for the Empire Strikers, both on Tuesday and Thursday of that week, so you couldn't make it. I want to mention 2 different things about our experience in Costa Rica. First of all, thank you to Nina and to Panda for traveling down there with me and being wonderful traveling companions. We had an absolute blast driving all around Costa Rica. We stayed in the La Fortuna region.
What's we? I heard you drove everywhere.
Yeah, I was trying to be, deferential and everything, but I definitely drove about 11 hours in 3.5 days that I was there between all the different trips. But look, we stayed in the La Fortuna area, which is right near the Arenal Springs and the Arenal volcano. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, all of the things they tell you about Costa Rica between the sloths and the toucans and lizards and geckos and all kinds of cool wildlife. We had an incredible experience down in Costa Rica. I'll get into the only disappointing thing about our trip in Costa Rica in just a second. But let me tell you, between the people who talk about a whole country, Philly, of some of the nicest people I've ever met. Oh, my goodness. I mean, literally everybody there that you get out of your car and they're there to greet you. And every other person ends or begins their sentence with the words pura vida, which is, the way that they live their entire life. It's their version of their mantra of just, look, this is how you live your life, man. It's a vibe there. It's just
their version of their mantra.
Their version of a mantra, right? Like
a Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, it just means pure life. But it means like pure life or simple life. Like
love it.
Like actually, when I was doing my research on Costa Rica before I go down, because I'm a teacher, I like doing my research. That they say one very simple sentence on Costa Rica's website. They say it's not just a phrase, it's a way of life. And it really is the way that they live down there. Pura vida. It's a simpler life. It's a pure life. First of all, the damn speed limit is only like 40 kilometers an hour wherever you're going anywhere. And I got to tell you, coming from driving the LA freeways to then driving in a Hyundai Tucson at 25 to 30 miles an hour, most everywhere I went, dear goodness.
Panda can run faster than that.
Dude, I mean, I might even be able to run faster than that on occasion, especially downhill with some wind at my back. But, it's
only one place where wind is coming from you, Scar.
It really forces you to kind of take things in perspective and to be able to sit and notice things and just be in the moment a lot more. We stayed in the hot springs that was there in La Fortuna. We had a great time with that. We saw, again, just on the hotel proper here, look, where we stayed, we opened our front door of the hotel. This is 100% true. We opened the front door of the room that we were staying at, and staring us in the face is the Arenal volcano. I mean, I don't know that there's more beautiful sight to wake up to than that Arenal volcano. It was incredible. There were birds that chirped and cawed and crowed and did whatever they did in all hours of daylight and nighttime. So there was always some sort of wildlife going on. It was really cool to wake up and see toucans eating papaya out of a tree. Just some cool stuff. But I got to say, the highlight for me personally, while we did go zip lining and we did get to experience the hot springs and all kinds of other cool stuff, we did a 2-hour whitewater rafting rapids kind of excursion, right? And the first 45 minutes or so, they're class 2, class 3 rapids when at their worst. So we're being guided by the guy who's done this same route like 500 times in his life, right? He's going to do it 2 or 3 times that day. So he knows what he's doing. And at no point did we feel like unsafe or that there was any danger. But the last hour and 15 minutes, Philly, of sitting in this raft with 4 people we had never met before, and then Nina, Panda, and myself. It was like the coolest, most realistic version of the Jungle Cruise that I've ever experienced in my life. We're sitting there just kind of floating down a river in Costa Rica. You hear the birds, you hear the cicadas, you see like iguanas in the trees, and you see all kinds of cool
and
birds.
Nina's pasta, apparently.
Yeah, more on that in a second. We had pasta con gecko, which was something that we did not intend on having. But it was just, I got to tell you, I'm a teacher, and I took 3 days off in order to go on this trip. It was something I never do. For those of you guys listening out there, I don't take days off in the middle of a teaching week, because at my school, they don't bring in substitutes. Teachers have off periods, and you're asked to help teach on your off period if somebody else misses. And that's how our school does things. You know what? We buy into it because we know that all of our colleagues respect each other's time, and we don't just take weeks off at a time or days off unnecessarily. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a year. It's been the last couple of 3 or 4 years for all of us out there. So I felt like it was perfectly fine for me to take 3 days in the middle, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And my colleagues had my back. I really appreciate it. They were all super excited. I got to tell you, sitting there in that river, Philly, I wasn't thinking about my students. I wasn't thinking about anything going on back home in LA. It was the most relaxed I've been in quite a while. It was absolutely incredible.
You know what's funny about it is the stories Panda told me. Didn't realize she would have such difficulty ziplining, where she needed to get rescued a couple of times. And then from what I heard, she fell out of the raft. So I know Panda's not the type that likes to play damsel in distress. I mean, the woman won marksmanship awards, for Christ's sakes, in the military.
Yeah.
So I would have been dying just to hear her struggles. Not here, I heard them, obviously, but to witness her struggles, ziplining and falling out of the raft. From what Nina told me, Amanda got picked up the same way I would pick up one of the gremlins when they're messing about. Oh, and by the way, speaking of which, today they officially turn 1 year of age. So happy birthday to Hagrid, Harry, and Huff. We're doing a party later on. I know Nina's coming. Hopefully you are too, Scarf.
Yeah, but March 16th. We're wishing happy birthday to everybody in this episode.
Well, there's clearly a lot of people got busy 9 months ago. What can I say? But yeah, so you are coming to the party, right? And you're bringing temptations, right?
Does that work with cats too? Is it a 9-month process as well? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I was just thinking about all the other birthday shout outs. But yeah, I would have loved to have been there. Yeah, I mean, next time around, hopefully we get to go on this next leg of the Champions League up to beautiful Canada, Vancouver in the house, a city I've always wanted to go to ever since I saw the image of Vancouver for the Winter Olympics. Right. And with that in mind, we should probably chat about these 2 games, because there's going to be a lot of chatting, and we're already 38 minutes into this pod.
Yeah, remind me, Philly, to make sure, if I somehow forget, although I doubt I will, to go over the only disappointing part in Costa Rica. But let's talk about the first match day down in Alajuela province, Alajuela province, Costa Rica. I mean, Philly, you and I heard left and right about this is the best team in Central America, some of the most passionate supporters and fans. They've got such a long history. If I'm remembering correctly, Philly, they've won this whole Champions League thing not once but twice. So there was quite a bit of fanfare as they got set to welcome the black and gold into their city, into their stadium, into their lives, and I'm sure after today's match, into their heads rent-free for a little while. An incredible atmosphere at the start. Look, the walk was great. For those of you that were there in Leon, you know what the Mexican police tried to do to us. They took us on what seemed like Gilligan's 3-hour tour that never left the island, and they never got off. We were walking all around Leon. And finally, 3 hours later or so, we walked into the stadium. Not so in Costa Rica. We left Hooligans, which was this little bar Not a little bar, actually a
Aptly named, I guess.
decently sized bar, right? They had incredible, dude, the chicken wings in Costa Rica. Let me tell you, these guys must be walking around on like two legs, just with their arms up. They never miss arm day. I'll tell you that with all these chickens in Costa Rica. I had 3 chicken wings and I was full. And that says a lot because I'm scarf. That happens very rarely. But incredible atmosphere down at Hooligans, about 500 people there. A huge, huge, huge thank you to everybody involved with that. Obviously, we have several friends, Philly, that were involved with that. Really, really cool that everybody who made that happen on the team side of things. We'll get into that in a little bit. But we made the walk from Hooligans down to the stadium, which was about a 3/4 of a mile to maybe a mile walk. It took about 15, 20 minutes. No issues until we got about, I would say, 500 yards or so from the stadium. And 500 yards or so from the stadium is where there started to be a couple of bars lining the streets right before you walk into the grounds there. And there were, I would say, maybe 50 to 100 Alajuelense supporters who had already clearly been drinking a little bit to get their match day started, and they weren't super pleased to see about 500 of their best black and gold friends come a roaring down the street. This certainly wasn't something, it didn't seem like something that they were used to. For the most part, by the way, they were all wonderful to us. They were filming on their phones. They were high-fiving as we came through. But then as we got a little bit closer, there were a couple of guys on the left and the right sides of the street that, you know, they pointed us in the direction of where we could go with a certain finger. And they asked about how certain members of our family were doing, usually just our mothers and grandmothers. But, you know,
grandmothers too. Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh, we heard some stuff, man. Let me tell you. But I do want to remind everybody, when you travel down to someone else's home like that, and soccer is as passionate of a sport as it is, and they have as passionate supporters as they do, you know what? Sometimes that'll happen, right? Sticks and stones and names and all that good stuff. There was only one glass bottle thrown on our walk in, and luckily it missed everybody. So I think if their aim with glass bottles foretold anything of what we would see out on the pitch, it kind of makes sense then, right? So that being said, we got escorted into our area. It was very different from our experience in León. In León, we were escorted into a pen with barbed wire all around, and there was no way in and no way out unless we wanted to be escorted back out ourselves. This one, we were side by side with Alajuelense fans, supporters. There was maybe an aisleway that was about 3 feet wide and 7 180-pound to 140-pound security guards. That was about it, separating us from the supporters there. And from about 10 minutes before the start of the match, all the way through halftime, and then all the way through to the end of the game after halftime. Oh, wait, no. All the way through 80 minutes, we cheered, we chanted, we did everything that you see in the North End. And then look, I always say this. You and I, Philly, don't get to experience the North End very often, right? It's usually because, you know what, we have to do a podcast. And one of the tenets of being in the North End is you are not there to watch the game the entire time. You are there to be a supporter, right? You're there to chant, you're there to cheer, you're there to spur on our boys. And so taking out your cell phone and writing down notes is, to put it mildly, frowned upon, right? But to be able to experience the chanting and the cheering and doing everything that they do for 90 minutes in a foreign country, in a land in which we don't get to do all of those things very often, was absolutely incredible, Philly. The whole experience leading up to the match and through the match was really amazing.
No doubt. I mean, it looked like fun. I certainly suffered from a great deal of FOMO. Didn't get a chance to watch the game live. But, of course, they did the replay of it 24 hours, well, a little more than 24 hours. It was like 10 p.m. the next day. You can hear it on the TV, how loud y'all were. I even got to see you a couple of times
I heard
on
that.
TV, and I think I have that written down somewhere in the notes. So I'm glad you guys went down there. I too wish I could have. And I know when they were doing the CONCACAF draw, I thought to myself, there's two places I really always wanted to go to, like bucket list, like I got to go. Costa Rica obviously was one of them. And then I always wanted to go to the country of Panama. Panama City, not like the crappy spring break Florida version of it. Talk about like real Panama. And I knew I would have a conflict because I looked at the MASL schedule and I thought, shoot, wherever you go, please don't pick Panama or Costa Rica. And of course, Costa Rica had to be chosen. Nevertheless, that's fine. Who knows? I might get lucky to go somewhere just as cool, if not cooler, down the road. But it's funny that you should say that, you know, people were out there and pointing you guys in the direction with the one finger. I'm sure they all thought, oh, here come the Americans with their Zimas and their Smirnoff Ices. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, the supporters thought that. From what I heard, a lot of the pundits were bragging about how, you know, this shouldn't be a very tough game. And Alajuelense, we're going to be a team to go out there and really contend and compete in this tournament. Because like you said, this is a team that's been here. This is a team that's won it. 1986, which is a good year for you and I as Mets fans. They won the CCL then, albeit called something else. 2004, they also won it. 2021, they made it to the round of 16, which is their most recent performance, with the exception of this time around. A club that's been around since the early 1900s. I mean, one of the most successful and most followed club in the country of Costa Rica. And we absolutely smacked them at home. And what's neat is for all of you that went down there, the 500 or so that went down there, you guys got to witness the historic Estadio Alejandro Morera Soto Stadium. 18,000 capacity, named after the club's first big star, who ended up during the 20s. It was Barcelona, FC Barcelona's main striker, comes out, becomes a manager for the team and one of the most beloved players. That stadium's not going to be around for much longer.
Yeah.
They're breaking ground on a new stadium that should be ready to go 2040, 2024, 2025. So you guys got to witness a historic venue, probably for the last time, that you'd ever get the opportunity unless you go back down to Costa Rica. So you guys saw a lot of really cool things. Now, the team itself, Los Leones, the Lions, this is a team that had a couple of players that featured on MLS rosters.
Sure.
Their leading scorer, Johan Venegas. This is a young man. I say everybody's a young man compared to me. 34 years old. People will say he's a grandfather in the beautiful sport of soccer, a.k.a. football. Here's a guy who spent time playing with the Montreal Impact and Minnesota United. You have a goalkeeper. Well, in my opinion, Lionel Moreira, you get that guy in Major League Soccer, man. Like, that guy is phenomenal. Without a doubt, phenomenal. The saves that he made in both games, this guy needs a statue or a hug or a high five or, I don't know, a beer at the very least. He was fantastic. But before I break down all this other stuff, let's get into the lineups and then get into talking about these games. I got my notes. You got your notes. We got 2 games to cover. Scarf, who started for Alajuelense?
Ooh, okay. So I just deleted that tab. So this might take me a second. Philly, why don't you go into the lineup?
I got it if you want me to say it.
Why don't you go into the lineup for LAFC and we can go from there. How's that?
That works for me. So we're going to put our strongest lineup out there. So, of course, you're going to start with the Philly man himself, because he's from the city of brotherly love. Big John McCarthy starting in between the pipes. Cheeky Palacios, Scarf's favorite player, maybe of all time in Major League Soccer in the short time he's been here, Giorgio Chiellini, who made his 680th appearance for club and country. 44 career goals in 21 years. Scarf is in love. Then you got Jesus David Murillo and Ryan Hollingshead, who played out of his mind down in Costa Rica. Midfield, you had Jose Cifuentes, who on that day, by the way, celebrated his 24th birthday. Congratulations. Ilie Sanchez, Kellen Acosta, Denis Kawabwanga. Holy moly, did he have himself a game. Carlos Vela and Mahala Opoku, who, by the way, spoiler alert, I don't see him losing his starting spot to Stipe anytime soon. Mahala's pretty darn good. As far as the bench is concerned, I'm only going to bring up the players that got used because I'm going to save my breath for other things. Sergei Palencia, Stipe Buke, Timothy Tillman, and this is something that's going to put a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Despite it took him longer to run out on the pitch than the actual minutes he got. Eric Dueñas. That is the bench that got used. That is the starting lineup. Do you have Alajuelense?
Yeah, very similar starting lineup to what we saw today, or I guess yesterday. Now that it's 12:39, you mentioned Morera. He is as good as it gets, and absolutely stood on his head in the second match. Needed to do a little bit more headstanding in the first match, but still comported himself very well. On the back line, you have Martinez, Gonzalez, Gamboa, and Zuniga. A back line that was absolutely decimated in the first match. In the midfield, you had Borges and Lopez, who, look, these guys, they were so outmatched and outclassed by our midfield in the first match, Philly. And then up top, Suarez, Mora, Alcocer, and Johan Venegas, as you had mentioned. And look, all due respect to this team's starting lineup in the first match, it was an incredibly disappointing showing for the Alajuelense supporters and the Alajuelense faithful in this match. Really outplayed from the jump. But I do want to mention the only disappointing thing in my entire trip to Costa Rica. We were very, very excited to experience a whole stadium tifo that we heard that was going to happen. Well, instead, what we were treated to was a tifo to the right side of us as we were looking at the pitch. I guess it's opposite their 12th man, their major supporters there. And it was these two lions that looked like Tony the Tiger and his sister from Frosted Flakes.
That's great.
And I have to tell you, it was the first thing we noticed was it wasn't a painted banner. It was printed. Like you would get it like AAA Flag and Banner or Kinko's or I don't know, Office Max or something. It was a giant printed banner, and it was like, all right, that's kind of disappointing. It was, clearly kind of a dig at us being like Hollywood, and they had the little whatever that the marker is for the lights, camera, action, the marker there. It was all right, but I thought when the tifo came up, I was like, oh, that's the kids section then, right? That's why these are cartoon characters. This whole section.
Maybe they just really like cereal.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought maybe this is where they have the little children sit, because this looked like a little children's tifo. And then they showed the opposite side of the stadium. Now, when they said full stadium tifo, what they meant was they passed out black and red little cardboard cards that they held up at the same time as they brought this Lord of the Rings inspired tifo-ish, which Philly also had the Warner Brothers water tower on it.
That's right down the road.
Yeah, it also had the Ars Gratia Artis, the lion from the Metro Goldwyn Mayer as he would come out of that whole thing. It had all these different nods to Hollywood, and I get it, right? They were like calling us like pretty boys, Hollywood. Like I don't know, but again, Philly, it was a printed tifo. This wasn't their supporters getting together and tracing and painting and all the wonderful things that we have heard that the 3252 do match in and match out to get ready for some of these incredible tifos that we see. I mean, can you imagine if we unfurled a printed picture of Kobe and Gigi, or a printed picture of Freddie Mercury, or a printed picture of Indiana Jones, or come on. That was awful. I got excited, Philly, for the first 3 minutes of the match, because let me tell you, those Costa Rican fans, they got loud. The whole stadium was chanting, and we got excited there in the supporters section for LAFC, because we're like, all right, it's gonna be Rocky versus Apollo. We're gonna be going a full 12, 15 rounds, and you know what? If he dies, he dies. I know that's Ivan Drago and not Apollo, but we're just gonna go. And I thought it's gonna be great. And then 3 minutes, and they didn't cheer again. Not for the first half, not for the second half, for the whole rest. I can't tell you what they did in the last 10 minutes. More on that later. But
so they certainly weren't cheering then either, Scarf.
Philly, literally, man, it was so disappointing. They were stone quiet, except for maybe 20 fans, supporters that were to our direct left, again, asking us about how our general family structure worked and how our mothers and grandmothers were doing. That was about it.
Look, what they pretty much did was set the precedent as to how the rest of the day was going to go for them. Because for 45 minutes, well, it was still anybody's game.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. There in that first match, Philly, there was what, one opportunity, I think, for Denny Bouanga, right? Where he had a banger off the post.
yep, what was it? Hollingshead had found Bouanga, and I mean, he was totally wide open, man. I mean,
Yeah.
he had nobody around him. A goal he absolutely should have smashed. But obviously, you got to tip your hat off to Ryan Hollingshead. He played a very good game, and the chemistry between him and Denny was awesome. I mean, more on that later, but you know, that's something you needed to have him happen. I mean, Gonzalez was there from Alajuelense. He got faked out of his pads. Morera was nowhere near. And so frustrating to have a bunny, as I would like to call it, a very simple play developed. Just caught the wrong side of his foot. And that's that. I mean, nothing happens there, but that's going to obviously put a chip on his shoulder because he's going to go out there and just have a mammoth game shortly after that. You want to talk about things that disappointed you?
Yeah.
I'm not one to bash on broadcasters because having called, 50 or 60 professional games in my life, I can tell you it's not easy. And anybody who thinks they could do it without several repetitions, you're playing yourself. It's not easy. But there is one thing that everybody should have at least some knowledge of is how to pronounce a player's name. How to pronounce a player's name is easy. And most media guides will actually have a way to properly enunciate it. The guy kept calling Mahala Opuku. Opuku. Multiple times I heard Opuku. Awful. Awful. Awful.
Yeah, look, I thought, unfortunately, one of the more invisible players through the entire first half was Carlos Vela. And up until about the 45th minute, it was Giorgio Chiellini with a back post header off of a Vela corner, which was a very nicely placed corner. And in the 1 minute of stoppage time, Carlos had two opportunities, a rocket that misses just wide and totally fooled all of us. That was the one Philly, I believe, he banged it off the corner, right?
Yep.
It looked like it was a whole hell of a lot farther away from the goal than it actually was. And he winds up banging it off the top corner and then another shot just wide. But Philly really, that's all she wrote in the first half. And it was a first half where, look, LAFC for the most part dominated the run of play.
Yep.
LAFC with the better chances. I thought Murillo had a solid first half. Giorgio Chiellini looked amazing. Mahala was on fire. But really, it came down to our midfield completely controlling this match and taking Alajuelense out of the first half.
Yeah, and one thing, like Panda mentioned, like the angle that you guys had in the corner that you were in, a lot of you thought that Carlos did score because of the way it hit, the angle that it was in. It bounced the netting, but obviously there was nothing there. But yeah, I mean, he was wide on that. Look, he was threatening in a lot of ways anytime he got the ball. Mahala was certainly threatening. Now, that's the first half. Nothing goes down there. Now, coming in, and I'm sure you witnessed it too, the guy who was the most fired up coming out of the locker room was your guy, Giorgio Chiellini. Came out on fire, rallying his troops, yelling at them, trying to get all amped up about things. I remember we were at the press conference down in the bowels of BMO Stadium, and he didn't even want to pronounce Alajuelense's name because he didn't know how to say it. He didn't know how to do it.
Right.
I forget who it was that enunciated it for him. But
wasn't it Katia?
Yeah, thank you. It was Katia. That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't take long within the second half for them to start doing things. We're talking 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The chemistry between Ryan Hollingshead and Denny Bouanga, it struck again. And fortunately, and you got Carlos Vela with a hockey assist if you really want to break it down. LAFC's great ball movement on the play. A little deflection, though, that happened. I mean, you had Ryan Hollingshead charging in the box. I think it bounced slightly off of Zuniga, and it just so happened that Denny Bouanga was there to clinically finish it. If it wasn't for that slight deflection, I don't know whether or not Hollingshead would have threaded that pass in, but that slight deflection made it a lot easier for Denny Bouanga to connect with it, and he wasn't going to miss it second time in a row. History does have a tendency to repeat itself, but it didn't happen on that occasion. 1-0 LAFC.
Yeah, and it was an absolutely beautiful cross. You mentioned it. And look, Denny was on the doorstep, and this time he wasn't going to let the opportunity fall flat. 1-0 LAFC just 2 minutes in. And it was one of those, I was talking about it with a couple of the people that were standing there with us from LA. I actually stood next to ISIS and her husband for most of the game, which was kind of neat. We were talking
Oscar,
about
shout
it.
out to Oscar.
Yeah, Oscar and I were talking, and we looked at each other, and I said, "Man, if we get one, we're going to get two or three," because it just felt like they were going to crack. And 2 minutes into the second half, we completely changed the tenor of that match. Denny Bouanga, an absolutely incredible performance. But I thought the most underrated moment of the entire match actually happened in the 53rd minute, and that was John McCarthy. A turnover leading to a corner kick. It was the save that John McCarthy made in the 53rd minute. This is a diving save. He got a hand on it, and it was one of those plays where he had to knock it out for a corner kick. If you go back and take a look at the 53rd minute and this save that John McCarthy makes, if it goes from 1-0 to 1-1, the entire tenor of the match changes again. Alajuelense can go back to trying to play whatever brand of football they were trying to play that didn't work very well for them in the first half. But hey, look, 0-0 is still better than dropping points or dropping a match at home. And if not for this save in the 53rd minute, I really think that LAFC would have to have gone back to the drawing board again and tried to manufacture another goal so that they can take this win. The way that we were playing, I mean, we were controlling the run of possession the entire way. And if they would have found a way to put one of those in, spoiler alert, we'll talk about how it worked in the second match. But John McCarthy, an incredible save. And Philly, we would get to about the 70th minute before any action happened, unless you were Carlos Vela trying to take a corner kick.
Yeah, you're right. But Alcocer's the one who had the great attempt on J-Mac.
Yeah.
Just want to give that out there. But 62nd minute, Carlos had a shot, and it was a fantastic attempt. Morera reached out and got his paw on it, and that's what led to a corner for LAFC. And yeah, you said it. Carlos Vela, not happy at that point. Unless you got to see the replay yourself, he was getting all kinds of stuff thrown at him, and he wasn't happy. I saw Gatorade bottles. Shout out to Toby Keith. I saw a bunch of red Solo cups getting thrown at Carlos, and he did not seem happy. Very rarely do you see Carlos pissed. He was visibly pissed at that point. And then you flash the camera, that single finger kept coming out from the stands because everybody there was pissed off that Carlos was taking his sweet time. It didn't take much longer from there for him to get subbed out. I think it was Timothy Tillman who subbed out. Vela did have some nice attempts, but you could tell he was getting pissed. But to show respect, he takes the captain's armband, hands it over to Ilie Sanchez. In comes in the 24-year-old German-American Timothy Tillman.
Yeah, and look,
and by the way, right at this moment, sorry, Scarf, didn't mean to interrupt you. 68th minute, if you go back, that's when I got to see you on TV.
Hey, well, look.
Carlos goes out, and I see the scarf. Whoa. A positive and a negative. That was still a negative. Just kidding.
Could it get any better, though, than that? Come on, you got Carlos Vela and then me. I do want to mention, though, the corner and the several corners that Carlos Vela took in that moment. He actually had some pretty solid corners. They had several, as Max Bretos would say, bites at the cherry there in the 65th minute. But all deflected out in front. It was a good ball. Look, Giorgio Chiellini wound up scoring a goal on a ball that kind of pinballed around the box earlier this season. So good things happen when we can get that ball in the box accurately. And Carlos was actually pretty solid when it came to that. But you mentioned, Philly, Ryan Hollingshead earlier in this podcast, and he is a guy who we have come to rely on, not just for his defensive acumen, but for what he brings to the table on the offensive side of the pitch, the attacking third, if you will. And it was Ryan Hollingshead with a great cross once again to Denny Bouanga in the 70th minute. And now it's 2-0. And Philly, the route is on. We got to see Sergei Palencia and Stipe Buke come on for Cheeky Palacios and Mahala. And that was only about 4 minutes before the 80th minute, where this is where I get to bow out, because what we saw coming through the door were the Costa Rican riot police and regular police. And we were asked by Albert and Jimmy to please vacate the premises. And again, I do want to say a big shout out to Albert and Jimmy and everybody else involved in the front office who made not just the tickets happen, but who made our experience there so incredibly safe and so incredibly fun. A big thank you to Albert and to Jimmy. 80th minute, though, Philly, that's where, unfortunately, I have to bow out because we were asked to leave.
So real quick, I just wanted to talk about the Hollingshead Bouanga connection. If you go back to Talladega Nights, you had your shake and bake team, baby. When it comes down to Denny and Ryan, you got Stash and Bash taking care of things. I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Chris Lafferty. I think he put the idea in my head. So shake and bake, but we got Stash and Bash. That's what happened there. 76 minute, Palencia and Palacios. Palencia subs in for Palacios. Stipe Buke comes in for Mahala. So I want to mention them because they get themselves in the game. So 78th minute, Stipe draws a foul from a very nice run. Very swift run, going box to box. So it ends up getting a play right there. You had 83rd. He had a nice shot, Scarf. Stipe had a great shot. An even greater pass from Ilie Sanchez, but Leonel Mora was there to deny it. In the couple of minutes that Stipe had within this game, though, he looked really good. And despite being up 2-0 at that point, you still have Denny Bouanga going really, really hard on goal. He had a shot that was saved. And all that occurred once again off of a pass and a run by Stipe Buke. He was doing things. 87th minute, we see a yellow card on Murray. Wasn't quite sure what happened there. Palencia got himself a corner. Bouanga kicks it to Palencia, to Ilie. It immediately gets back to Denny. And with authority, an emphatic shot, Denny Bouanga manages to pierce the netting, getting it past Morera, who had made so many saves at that point. Sanchez gets the assist. Bouanga gets the Hattie. Booyah. 3-0. And that's why you weren't going to hear much from Alajuelense, because their cockiness and their ego got in the way. Again, the Americans, the Zimas and the Smirnoff Ices came in. But I hate to break it to you, Costa Rica. You got your asses handed to you on your own home turf. Best team in Costa Rica, best team in Central America. You couldn't beat Sporting Kansas City last season with the performance you pulled on the pitch, or even the Portland Timbers, for that matter. 5 minutes of injury comes through. 90th plus third. Lopez had a shot from Alajuelense. Took it well outside of the box. J-Mac had a save. And then we see young Eric Duenas finally getting himself some minutes. He's been suffering from injuries throughout the past couple of seasons. It was all about the ankle. He got some minutes in there. Denny Bouanga gets replaced. He obviously had a great game, and that's how it's going to end. Shots, and the stats are staggering. LAFC, 25 shots in that game. Crazy. Not sure how many shots you might have had at Hooligan Scarf, but LAFC had 25 shots on the pitch. On target, 12 of them. With 3 goals, Morera had a hell of a game. And then as far as possession was concerned, LAFC had it. And from what I heard, this was only the 10th loss in something like 60 tries in this competition for Alajuelense at home. Only their 10th loss in there. And the final words and thoughts I had, Tillman looked confident and composed when he had the ball. Solid dribbling display. And it's despite us beating them 3-0, that wasn't the most dominating performance in Major League Soccer at that point, because that recognition had to go to the Vancouver Whitecaps, our next opponent, beating Real España 5-0. And that's how the game one went, bro.
Look, you can say anything you want. The performance that I am going to remember for the rest of my life, by far, of this CONCACAF Champions League, unless we win the whole damn thing, and I think we certainly can, and I would put money on us to do that this season. Violette from Haiti. Violette, please look up the story of Violette. I know we're in between the two games right now, but the Haitian League, if I understand correctly, has not played since 2021. Violette has not really played or practiced much as a team in the last 2 years. And yet Violette, a team made up of like plumbers and like these are guys who have been working 9 to 5s for, as long as they possibly can since their soccer careers were kind of put on hold. Violette in the Dominican Republic, not even playing in their native country of Haiti, goes out and as Dwayne Johnson would say himself, layeth the smacketh down on Austin's broccoli wielding selves. It was incredible to see this 3-0 performance by Violet, and then to have visa issues and players not able to come into the country for any myriad of reasons. So literally they signed like 5 guys off the street and 4 other guys who were hanging out in front of the stadium because they needed some depth on their bench when they went to play Austin in Austin. And still they came out only quote unquote losing 2-0 to continue to advance. Violet is the story of the tournament so far for me. They move on, which is absolutely incredible. But Philly, we get to move on to BMO Stadium. And look, we're going in with a 3-0 lead on aggregate. Nothing to worry about there. We were fine. I did mention the whole Leon thing on One More Sleep, how they came in pretty confident up 2-0 and they wound up getting beat pretty good by, I don't know, pretty good LAFC team that year, 3-0. Going into the match, Philly, we were confident, but turns out let's advance, but make it stressful. Yeah.
Of course. And just to put this into perspective, both teams played games this past Sunday. We absolutely decimated our opponents this past Sunday, 4-0. It wasn't even a game. It was a layeth of the smacketh down. Alajuelense had a game in which they lost. Not only did they lose 2-0 in that game, they also lost their possession of first place. Now they got superseded by the other big team down in Costa Rica, Saprissa, which, by the way, I forgot to tell you this, hanging out on Christmas Tree Lane close to Black Army's tent. And yeah, just chatting with Reimer and a couple other people. And there was a few Alajuelense people that were there. And then literally there was a guy wearing a Saprissa jersey walking by all of us. And we were like, what the hell is this guy doing here? It was kind of funny. But both teams played games. Alajuelense only started 3 of their regulars in that past game on Sunday. So they were looking to rest their guys to obviously throw everything and the kitchen sink and maybe a sloth or a toucan or two at LAFC tonight. They looked well rested and they came ready to play. Now, with it being CONCACAF Champions League, a lot of the regular rituals, a lot of the songs, a lot of the stuff that we would normally do wasn't there just due to CONCACAF Champions League reasons. The one thing that rubbed me the wrong way, and mainly because of its ties to a certain team that we despise down the 110, I loved the White Stripes, but anytime I hear Seven Nation Army now, all I can think of is the Galaxy. They constantly pump that at Dignity Health Sports Park. So to hear that song being played through the speakers at BMO Stadium rubbed me the wrong way. I get it. It's nothing, but it's just still kind of gross hearing anything that even brought the image of the LA fallacy into my head. It just drove me nuts. Needless to say, so did the first opening minutes of the game too.
Yeah, look, no national anthems, no Ollie Falcon flight or honorary Falconer. We did at least get the trumpet, right? We got the trumpet right before the match, I believe, which was pretty cool. Look, it was nervous time very, very early on. You mentioned it. By the way, I noticed something about Sergei Palencia in this match. He doesn't have just the word Palencia on the back of his jersey. He has S. Palencia on the back of his jersey. Thought that was interesting.
It's so funny you should say that because Panda and I are going back home watching the highlights. And we said the same thing, as if Sergei would have to worry about misplacing his jersey with the other Palencia on the team. Or for the same matter, Denny Bouanga, D. Bouanga. I'm sorry, these aren't exactly Smith or Jones. These aren't common names that you should see. What is with the extra first initial and the period followed by the name? I can get it. If there's plenty of names, well, I don't have to explain it, but it was funny that you mentioned that. Anyway, carry on.
Look, if they keep scoring and playing the way that they do, they can put whatever they want on the back of their kit. I do want to mention the lineups in this match. First, for Alajuelense, only one change made from one match to the other. And of course, this is where I clicked the thing off again. I can't believe I just did that. Oh my God. I'm so
I'll read LAFC. You wait for that then.
Yeah. Okay. You go ahead and read that one. I can't believe I just clicked it off.
I can.
Oh my God, I just did that for the second
time. It's 1:03 a.m. Anything can happen when you're operating on exhaustion, which you, my friend, do.
I found it. The only change was Milok coming into the midfield. He was the only change for Alajuelense. Milot coming into the midfield for, I believe it was Borges, was the only change that they would make. Everybody else would start. Same captain. It was Giancarlo Gonzalez, who was the captain for both matches. Morera, of course, between the pipes. Venegas starting out up top. We would hear a little bit more from Suarez in this match than we did, obviously, in the previous one. And look, this was a quality team playing their best possible shot that they could do to try and get something going. And Philly, it only took about 5 minutes, but who were the changes in the lineup for LAFC? Hopefully being able to rest some guys now that we have a match just 3 days.
So Ryan Hollingshead had to rest, but unfortunately, now wasn't really rest. I mean, when you spit up blood, chances are you probably have to take a get a TO, Mr. Hollingshead. Get a TO, baby. Shout out Dick Vitale. Shout out March Madness, by the way. My Hoosiers are starting things off against Kent State on Friday. I have them going to the Sweet 16 scarf, losing to Houston. Anyway, that's besides the point. 4 changes within the LAFC starting lineup. You still have Big J-Mac in between the pipes. Sergi Palencia, that's a difference. Giorgio Chiellini, Aaron Long, that's a difference. Chiqui Palacios, Timothy Tillman, that's a difference. Ilie Sanchez, Sifu, Mahala, Vela, and Buke, that's a difference. That's your starting lineup for LAFC.
Yeah, look, 5 minutes in. Good chance for Costa Rica comes off.
Hold on, Scarf. 11 seconds in, off of the kickoff. You had a brilliant pass by Chiellini, and the ball gets its way right in front of like Stipe. I mean, they almost came in red hot out of the gates. I mean, Ilie Sanchez had it, passed it over to Chiellini downfield. Zuniga, who absolutely got torched by Ryan Hollingshead, was there to make that play, but I mean, he got devoured by Hollingshead, absolutely. But hey, Stipe almost, destroyed, broke Alajuelense's spirit in only 11 seconds. Just wanted to make sure we highlighted that because that would have been quick and ferocious.
For sure, it would have changed the entire tenor of the match. And I think, obviously, if Carlos Vela is able to get on the other end of that play from Stipe, then we're talking about, I mean, we might have been able to pull our starters at about 45 minutes in. But 5 minutes into the match, several deflections in the box, and it was a little hard to tell what happened or who it came off of, although it was Giorgio Chiellini, I believe, was the culprit. In the 5th minute is when this chance happens. And then they take 3 minutes to stand there while somebody else checks the review. And then they call for the VAR review. And of course, when they call for the VAR, most of the time it means it's going against your club. And that's absolutely what happened. It was rather disappointing. It is Giancarlo Gonzalez to take the penalty shot as a handball called in the box, I believe, on Giorgio Chiellini.
It was shot up by Alexander Lopez. The replay, it hit his hand. It legit hit his hand.
And just like that, Philly, it's nervous time at BMO. Look, I know they needed 3-0 or 4-1 if we got one, right? But 5 minutes in, and now all of a sudden your lead is only 2 and really only 1, because then you have to go into PKs with these guys. It got nervous time real quick, Philly. I mean, 8 minutes in, we get the PK, but man, 14th minute, Philly, we almost came right back.
Sergi Palencia, who, by the way, had some sequences where he looked great. Same with a lot of our players. Unfortunately, the accuracy bug was something that was plaguing the entire team, not just a couple of players. But in this case, Palencia, he boots it up high, and it just so happens that Aaron, he would long to have that ball back, whips it off of his forehead, and it hits the crossbar. You see what I did there? That was a very close call. Morera, without a doubt, got beat. Unfortunately, the trajectory of the ball had it hitting the upper part of the crossbar, but that was a close call and a really, really solid attempt on goal at that point.
Yeah, look, we had a great run. This kid is so close to being able to put it together. I hope this doesn't become like some other strikers in the past. But in the 16th minute, it was the Stipe Buke minute. Made a great run up the left, just missing, connecting with Carlos Vela as that ball came through the middle. At the end of the 16th minute, he had his own shot block and got it right back at the start of the 17th. Another great effort. And what I liked Philly about this more than anything else is that he was kind of announcing his presence to Alajuelense as someone who they needed to reckon with if he was near the box. Now I know he didn't put any of those 3 chances into the back of the net with the 16th and 17th minute, but Philly, he at least put you on notice that you have to account for the kid.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's a talented player, man. I mean, we've got some of these younger guys that we have on our team. Give them a couple more games under their belt, and I mean, I think they're going to be gangbusters for this team and doing things. I mean, there was plenty of things that I liked what I saw, other things that I didn't like what I see. 21st minute, we've already seen too much Leonel Moreira. And what's interesting about Alajuelense in the Costa Rica Primera Division, they have 2 goalkeepers, which have really split a lot of the time in net. It's Moreira who's the veteran, and they had another younger keeper that's been quite successful within his own right. It's interesting to see Moreira in both games, but after witnessing that, get this guy a contract, somewhere within MLS or hell. I mean, I even think the guy's got an opportunity, talented enough to try out for some European clubs or some other big South American clubs. Like, this dude was clutch. He comes out, makes a great play, but shortly after that, there was a turnover, which was unforced by Alajuelense. And Stipe had a nice Stipe to Carlos. Carlos had a nice opportunity, but he booted it high. So yet again, we're suffering from the accuracy bug, and Carlos Vela is suffering from it too, although I would say he'd been suffering from it for a couple of games now.
Yeah, look, I got roasted on our social medias when I said that he's been our least productive striker over the last 2 matches. I'm pretty sure Carlos...
I disagree with you too.
Well, yeah, that's okay. And I'm pretty sure that Carlos heard me, because we'll talk about that later on in the match. Carlos, we know you listen to the podcast. He
certainly wasn't giving you this.
But yeah, no, look, we really appreciate it. We know you're a big fan of the podcast, Carlos, and we appreciate you listening. An absolute blast from Mahala in the 23rd minute, nicely saved by the keeper. Look, Timothy Tillman had a great game. He's been pretty solid for us this season. Had a great interception, but just picked the wrong lane with his pass in the 25th minute. And I just felt like Philly, that entire first half, it was really Stipe Buick who consistently got us our best chances. Even in the 37th minute, Philly, that little back heel pass, Palencia. And look, I don't think Palencia knew he had 1 or 2 dribbles more of space in front of him that he could have taken before he skies this one wide. It would have been an incredible play seen on ESPN's top 10, but make the simpler play, take an extra dribble, maybe 2 in instead of trying to one-time it. And then look, it was Mahala taking it all the way to the line, who found Buick once again. And Philly, that save by Moreira in the 44th minute. I mean, Philly, it could have been what? Not 1-0 at halftime, but we're talking it could have been 2-1, 3-1 LAFC.
I mean, even in the 28th minute, Tillman had a pass that didn't look like it was really meant to go to anyone. It just so happened that it found its way in the path of one Jose Cifuentes. He advances the ball, and he's not afraid to take it from outside of the box, but even he got close, winds up, and he, shucks it over. So that could have been another phenomenal opportunity. But it wouldn't be just Palencia. Palencia, by the way, that was such a quick trigger. I mean, great back heel pass. I mean, I blinked and he already had that shot off. You go back to watch the replay, it was hair trigger fast. But we had 4 minutes of stoppage. Halftime, we go up 15 shots this time. We had 26 shots at the end of the game against Alajuelense in leg 1. We're already 15 at this point. On target, we only had 3.
Right.
3 of these 15 shots on target. We absolutely massacred Alajuelense in terms of possession, 61-39, and our passing was fantastic within this first half as well. We just shot ourselves in the foot with, that costly handball, which led to a Chiellini yellow card. But that's your first half. But all hope comes in when the second half begins, because you got Denny Bouanga in the game. He doesn't suffer from accuracy scenarios. The guy's got 5 goals in the last 2 games coming into this one. Surely Denny Bouanga is going to do things, right?
Look, the theme of the second half, as we saw Alajuelense's daddy check into the match in Denny Bouanga, the theme of the second half we thought was going to be missing sitters, because that's what we saw happen time and time again in the second half. Philly, it was so frustrating for us. down just 1-0, but knowing that could have been 1 or 2 or 3 for the good. And just like they made it nervous time about 5 minutes into the first half, 7 minutes into the second half, Híjole madre, things got very interesting. The save made by McCarthy in the 52nd minute, but the rebound came right out to Suarez, who, I mean, was staring at a wide open net, practically walked it into the back of the net. Philly, for LAFC to have dominated the run of play the way that they did for the first 50, 52 minutes of the match, and then for Alajuelense to be able to capitalize on some mistakes and to catch us in bad situations. And now here we are with 38 minutes and change to see out. And the margin is just one that we would have to go to PKs for, Philly. 52 minutes in. Oh, yeah, it is nervous time.
Suarez had a great shot that just J-Mac got a nice set of gloves on. He tries to make the play. Suarez comes in, and look, J-Mac is not going to go down easy. He tried to protect the ball. Clearly, there was contact made to his head. What I want to know is, why wasn't that reviewed? John McCarthy doesn't go down like a sack of potatoes and plays the crybaby game. Not a kid from Philly. Not now. No way. Not today. Not ever. Not sure who, what, when, how, why, where that wasn't reviewed. He took a boot to the face. That's pretty clear and obvious foul, if you ask me. Yeah. Why wasn't that reviewed? At the very least, just at the very least, it was a scoring opportunity. He gets hit in the face. Now, I don't exactly know of the new rules with CONCACAF, VAR, and all that other stuff, because they only started utilizing this. But John McCarthy's not going down in the way that he did without it being a significant bit of contact. Regardless, it's scary time. And I'm not trying to stay at BMO Stadium any longer than I have to. It's 1:15 a.m. Had they gone to PKs, who knows what time we would have started recording this podcast. 3-2 aggregate. Not very fun.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't go to PKs, but I'll tell you what, Carlos Vela is going to be seeing Morera in his sleep tonight. Maybe not, because he'll have visions of sugar plums dancing in his head by the end of the match, but still in the fifth.
Where did that term even come from? Whoever thought about sugar plums dancing in their head? I couldn't even draw you a sugar plum.
I'll call you Sugar Plum, Philly. There we go. How's that? Look,
my wife might be weirded out, but hey, it's going to be your birthday on Saturday, so you can call me anything you want.
Oh my goodness. 58th minute, Carlos Vela missing an absolute sitter. In the 58th minute. But then in the same minute, he gets one back. And look, this might be one of the best saves I've seen this season. An absolutely unreal save by Morera, the keeper, and a great pass by Stipe Biuk. Again, a lot of our better offensive chances, Philly, in the first hour of the match, even though we've now subbed on Denny Bouanga, he's been on for 15 minutes. A lot of our better offensive chances have come off of Stipe Biuk.
No, absolutely. I mean, he was the threat. It's just the accuracy thing yet again. And it wasn't just Carlos. It wasn't just Sifu. It wasn't just Palencia. It wasn't just Stipe. 77th minute, the accuracy bug affected Chiellini as well. Cifuentes had a great pass into Chiellini, and he had a golden opportunity for his second goal of the season, and he boots it off frame.
Yeah.
So open. There were so many attempts that were open. Either we missed some nice opportunities because we got the wrong side of the boot on the ball, or Leonel Morera just playing out of his mind. The best player of Alajuelense, without a doubt. Venegas, you might as well have called him Casper the Friendly Ghost, because I hadn't seen him anywhere. Couple of powder puff shots that he took. Their leading scorer, nowhere to be found.
Yeah,
Alcocer was better than he was. In this game, Zuniga was better than he was. You had Suarez better than he was. Giancarlo Gonzalez better than he was. Venegas crumbled under the bright lights at home and in Los Angeles.
Yeah, look, back up real quick to the we had some giggity subs, Philly, because in the 69th minute, that would be Kellen Acosta and Jesus David Murillo checking in for Timothy Tillman and Aaron Long.
Larry.
And let me tell you something. If you want to know where LAFC really won this matchup, or at least saw it out on aggregate, it was because of the subs in the 69th minute. Kellen Acosta and Jesus Murillo took the air out of the ball. Took the air absolutely out of the ball for LAFs, for Alajuelense, because they were able to start controlling the pace of this match. And it was such an important series of substitutions there by Steve Cherundolo. It was almost like, okay, I've let this thing go for long enough. We're in the 70th minute. I've seen everything I need to see. I'm doing as much resting and rotating of players as possible. But at the end of the day, I want to win the damn thing. And we needed to do that with Murray and Acosta. And obviously, look, I felt it after the 70th minute, Philly, of this match. We saw Giorgio Chiellini miss the sitter. We also saw Giorgio Chiellini get beat around the corner in the 72nd minute. This is a team that's played 4 matches in 12 days. We'll play 5 matches in 15 days. So the legs were certainly starting to get heavy here around the 70th, 75th minute, 77th minute. That's how Giorgio misses an absolute sitter.
Yeah.
I mean, we are trying, Philly, trying to push this match over the line. And you know what? They forgot about El Rey. All the crap that I was talking about Carlos Philly the last couple of matches, about how he's been unproductive. He's barely even been on the pitch when we scored these last 7 goals. He was on the pitch for 2 out of the 7 goals that we scored. Wasn't even in the box on one of them. So really he was only on the pitch, and he was kind of a factor in the goal. But other than that, really not a lot going on for Carlos. You know what Carlos said? Hold my cerveza.
That he did. But you also have to give props to Jose Cifuentes because he forced that ball in to Carlos Vela. He absolutely drills one past Leonel Moreira. For as awesome as he was not getting in front of that Vela freight train, baby. And that's the insurance that we needed. Sorry, Veronica, you don't have the best insurance policy in town. LAFC does, in that of Vela insurance. Property and casualty, done by yours truly, Carlos. 2-1. The bank erupts at that point, and that's exactly what we need to breathe a sigh of relief. I'm gonna have my thoughts a little bit later, but at this point, 4-2 on aggregate. And it was done in the 83rd scarf in your minute. It was a scarfity-scarf goal by Carlos Vela, and awesome, man. We're still losing the game, by the way. I mean, everybody's excited, but it's nice to be up 2. But Alajuelense certainly made a run at it because we had 6 minutes of injury time, and J-Mac got tested a few of those times.
Yeah, look, the beauty of it is now by scoring this goal, that meant that Alajuelense would need 2. They would need to win 4-1. And look, last 17 minutes or so last 14 minutes or so of match time, you really got the feeling that LAFC would be able to see this one out. Carlos Vela, by the way, in 6 CONCACAF Champions League matches with LAFC, that is his 6th goal. That averages out, for those of you doing the math out there, to 1 per game. And we absolutely needed this 1 per game from Carlos Vela. It was, he was clinical. He was calm. He absolutely made sure that this ball, this match, this leg of the CONCACAF Champions League would be put away. And that is what captains do. That is what leaders do. That is what your goal scorer is supposed to do. And Carlos, you have earned scarf shutting up, if you will, because he was so clinical, and we finally found him in the right spot. And you absolutely knew he wasn't going to miss a 3rd time on a ball that he certainly should have put in the back of the net. You're absolutely right, though. In the first minute, ball put over the box, I thought Murillo was absolutely fantastic since he had come into the match, really controlling things. A diving save by J-Mac in the 3rd minute, another shot from long range that J-Mac had to corral in the 4th minute, and another shot from long range that J-Mac had to corral in the 5th minute. I didn't think any of those long probing shots Philly really had any chance at any given point. But what I loved is Alajuelense, for as awful as you all looked in the first leg, you guys really did your club and supporters proud. This was a great match. You absolutely had the defending Major League Soccer and Supporters Shield winning champions on our heels for literally all of the match, it felt like. And the people of Costa Rica, the supporters of Alajuelense, You all obviously should be very, very proud. I'm proud to have this scarf on my wall. There it is over there. This scarf on my wall because this Philly was an absolutely incredible match, but it was put away by El Rey.
Yep, I agree. It was for as much crap as I talked after during the leg one review. Certainly made it very very nerve-wracking, and that's obviously what a good team will do when they have their backs against the wall. So they played well, but I'm not going to say they really were. Look, we beat ourselves in this game at the end of the day. Let's go through the final stats real quick. We had 26 shots to their 12. They had 7 on target. We dominated possession. They played a much better game. They capitalized on the mistakes that we made. Obviously, the handball was one. They converted the penalty kick. The second goal of the game, J-Mac had a great save, but nobody was there, obviously, to help clean up. So you could point your fingers that way. So a mistake occurred on that. But they didn't really build anything up. They didn't really make too many connecting passes that really put us in any kind of a danger. McCarthy, until those final minutes of injury time in the second, really didn't get tested all that much. I mean, he made himself a fair amount of saves, but they came in later. It's just a matter of us just being able to close out games. And it was just odd to me to celebrate a 2-1 loss at home. Fact of the matter is we still lost to Alajuelense, but sure. I don't believe that they beat us as much as we beat ourselves. We missed a lot of open opportunities. I wanted a Casey Stengel quote. When asked, what did you think about your team's execution?
I'm in favor of it.
Same thing can be said in that regard. We should have won this game by a much bigger margin. We almost put it away 11 seconds in the game. So it's really odd to me to celebrate a 2-1 loss. But despite all of that, we're moving over into the next round against a team that's 0-2-1 in the Vancouver Whitecaps, and we advance.
Philly, what's the motto of March Madness? Survive and advance, baby. And that is everything and anything that LAFC needed to do. When you win pretty 3-0 in your first match, it doesn't matter that you lose pretty at home 2-1. Look, we obviously want to defend the bank. We never want to lose. We never want to drop matches at home. But the important part about the second leg is you do whatever you need to do to make sure that all the hard work that you put into the first leg stands up. And we absolutely did that. Very, very proud of our boys. I do want to just, throw something out there. The only 3 people that we subbed into the match were Denny Bwanga, Kellen Acosta, and Jesus Murillo. So Coach Steve Cherundolo was not messing around one bit. There was no subbing of any players who we might not be familiar with becoming frontline players for us all of a sudden in a massive Champions League match. I do want to mention, though, Philly, I don't think we beat ourselves in this match. I don't even think that Alajuelense did everything that they needed to do to beat us in this match. I think the fact that our guys just finished 4 matches in 12 days in March, by the way, in March. We're not talking about a team that's in form, in shape, and it's June, it's July, it's August. We're raring to go. We can kind of see our playoffs taking shape. We can kind of see our different experiments that we've been doing all season with lineups or tinkering with formations or whatever it be start to take shape. No. This is March. We are not in season. We are not in form. A lot of our players are not in the kind of shape that they want to be at the end of the season. Well, what we're seeing still, though, is that LAFC is able to gut out these wins. We're able to salt it away when we need to with a big goal by, for instance, Carlos Vela in the 83rd minute in this match. So I'm really proud of our guys because we fought through the adversity of, it's March and we're not in that good a shape.
I would agree with you, but there are some concerns as far as I have a couple of concerns. One is, our depth is really going to get tried out this season, like big time. Ryan Hollingshead not being in the game obviously had an impact on this, without a doubt. Say whatever you want about Aaron Long, and I might have to go back to rewatch the game, so I don't want to point all of my fingers or any of my fingers. But other than the header he had that hit the crossbar, I can't say I really saw too much from him. Ryan Hollingshead is one of the best, if not the best scoring defender in Major League Soccer today. And he's obviously versatile. He can play on both sides of the box, left and right. He's hurt. That hurts us. Fine, we survive, we advance. But I think the thing that concerns me the most is you have a game in which your oldest player, 38-year-old Giorgio Chiellini, goes the entire way. Then you got Ilie Sanchez, who got burnt out by Sporting Kansas City with all the injuries they had. And, well, they didn't think he would have enough gas left in the tank to go out there. And we end up with him, and he ends up having a renaissance of a career. It worries me if we're going to utilize the likes of these veterans the full 90. In scenarios where we absolutely have to win, we need those guys in there. But we're going to have more games this season than we've ever had in the history of this franchise. You got the continuation of this tournament. You got the Open Cup, the Campeones Cup, the Leagues Cup, the rest of Major League Soccer. I hope that we don't see too many people going down with the injury bug, because fatigue has the potential to make cowards out of anybody. Obviously, you can say that fatigue had an impact on this game, and we missed a lot of shots we probably would have smashed in had we had some rest. But it does concern me to see the likes of a Giorgio Chiellini go the full length. Same with Ilie Sanchez. Love these guys. I know they're competitors and they're going to want to play, but I just don't foresee, if we keep utilizing the heck out of them that way, not showing any more versatility in terms of our depth, it's going to be a long season, because we already have Hollingshead out a couple of games, and we can see how badly that's hurt us.
Yeah, I want to mention one other player too, now that we're thinking about it. Let's talk about Cheeky Palacios for just a second here. March 4th, March 10th, March 13th, March 16th, he has played, or excuse me, March 15th. He has played in all 4 of these matches. He was able to sit out 14 minutes in Alajuelense as we won 3-0. He played all 90 minutes in a 4-0 win against New England. He played all 90 minutes in a 3-2 win against Portland. He played all 90 minutes in a 2-1 loss here to Alajuelense. And I imagine, because I don't know who in the heck is going to be able to play like for like with Cheeky Palacios this season, that he is going to have to play all 90 minutes when we go up to Lumen Field in just 3 days to take on a very, very good Seattle Sounders team. We already saw what it was like losing Ryan Hollingshead. Philly, you mentioned the effect. I think the exact same thing could happen if we somehow find a way to run Cheeky Palacios into the ground as well. This could be a very interesting time moving forward. And Philly, speaking of moving forward, the Vancouver Whitecaps await Tristan Blackman, The Wall, Thomas Hasal, and the rest of the Vancouver Whitecaps await LAFC. And the 2 dates that we need to start marking on our calendar, Philly, are sometime between April 4th and the 6th, and sometime between April 11th and the 13th. And that's according to CONCACAF's website. But don't worry, before then, Philly, on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, LAFC will go ahead and take that payment out of your account for those games. So you don't have to worry. The money will already be gone.
Yeah, I'm wearing green. I won't be seeing very much green in my pocket after more money comes out of it. And I'll be I'll be feeling green as a result of that too. But it's, hey, we love this team, and, we do what we got to do. So that's the story there. Really quickly, just as far as the rest of the CONCACAF Champions League, the Union advanced 4-0 aggregate on Alianza. Congratulations to Violette. To Austin. You had a fantastic showing within your CONCACAF Champions League. But it's not so much that y'all lost it as much as I appreciate Violette winning. Atlas advances 5-4 on aggregate with Olympia. The most dominant team throughout the first leg, Vancouver, 7-3 aggregate, despite losing today to Real España. And tomorrow, well, actually it's today, we're approaching 2 a.m, dangerously late. It's dangerously late. We're waiting on the results from León and Taro and Pachuca and Motagua. But either way, we're off to Canada to face the Vancouver Whitecaps team that is 0-2-1, and they've been in every game. They've scored in every game. They've only lost by 1 goal in every game. It's too early to tell whether they're good or bad, and it's kind of too early to say that about any team within Major League Soccer. I hate how you can see 2 games and all of a sudden people are like, this team's winning the title. Nah, man, that's dumb. There's 3 games is not a very good run of form to depict anything from anybody, unless you're LAFC and beating people 4-0 and going up 3-0 and then whatever. But anyway, that's the story with the rest of the CONCACAF Champions League. We're an hour and 45 minutes into this scarf. I don't have much else to say at 2 a.m. on a Thursday.
Yeah, I got two things, and then we're out of here. Bummer that Fito Zelaya and Alianza are now eliminated. Oh well, by Fito. And only two players, Philly, in our team history have played in all 6 CONCACAF Champions League games. Carlos Vela being one of them. Can you tell me here at 1:33 in the morning who you think the second player in LAFC's history to play in all 6 Champions League matches would be?
Cifuentes.
No, not Cifuentes.
Shoot, hang on.
Can I give you a hint?
No, not yet. Don't give me a hint.
Not yet. This is riveting podcasting, by the way.
All right, so they played in every Champions League game, and I'm not looking this up. I'm just looking at the starting lineup because I can't think.
Yep, that's okay. This is riveting. I love this. It's a great idea right at the end.
Well, it's got to be cheeky.
It is absolutely Cheeky Palacios. Those are our two players that have played in all 6 Champions League matches. Dare I say a lock to play in all 8 Champions League matches, assuming they are healthy, coming out of the matches against Seattle on the 18th. And then FC Dallas, Philly, coming to Banc, to BMO Stadium. FC Dallas coming to BMO. And look, you know what kind of put a smile on my face, Philly? FC Dallas, they were the last team to kind of have something with Bayern, right? They sent a bunch of players over to Bayern. But more importantly, we get to have another ring ceremony, Philly. We get to have another ring ceremony.
Sebastian Ibeagha, baby, comes back to BMO to collect his bling ring, and that's going to be fun. Congratulations to him. He also had a goal not that long ago, former Duke University and NYCFC star, and obviously beloved member of the Black and Gold and the signer of my LAFC bottles of Captain Morgan rum. So, yeah, I like Sebastian Ibeagha. Very nice guy when we got the chance to chat with him. Very well dressed, too, and it'll be nice to see him at Banc of Montreal State.
We both came close right here at the end. Oh, God, we might as well wrap it up. Philly.
Yeah.
Anything more, we're only an hour and 40. Hey, we covered 2 matches, though. We did all right.
We did. And we didn't have like the usual. I would say a lot of this banter wasn't really. It was warranted. We talked about a lot of things. Y'all learned a little bit more about me and, my family tree and my lineage. And you got to hear about scarf stories in Costa Rica, which I think are awesome. Yeah. But, I mean, again, it's 2 a.m. We both got work in a couple hours. Let's get some sleep, dude. Much love to the millions.
And millions.
And I'm done.
I got one more podcast on the 3rd floor, and then after that, all of them are going to be joining Philly up on the 4th floor, you guys. And you know how we like to end all of our episodes, including this one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.